Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. It is the day after the night before when Kell Brook finally laid to rest the metaphorical demon by the name of Amir Khan, the demon in his mind, the one that he felt he owed revenge to, the one that he felt stalled his career. Now, whether this is true or not is irrelevant. This is something that tormented Kell Brook for many years, and he finally slayed that beast that was in his mind. We've already done a post-fight review of the fight. We've also done a preview, of course, a technical breakdown, and thank you to all those that took the time to watch it and for the compliments. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Please always take the 1 second it takes to hit that like button as well. It really does help the channel grow. On this particular video, I want to discuss the psychological warfare that both teams partook in, because there were some great gems that were dropped. There were things that were said from both sides that had a purpose behind them, and to an extent they worked on both sides. Let's start off with what Amir Khan's psychological warfare was, what his team's psychological warfare was, where perhaps he could have altered things a little bit, and where also he had a lot of success. You know, this image has become synonymous now with the gloves are off. He asks Kell Brook here, "You're obsessed with me, aren't you, Kell?" And he gives this sinister laugh where he just looks brilliant, doesn't he? He looks like a villain from a Dick Tracy movie or something, almost like a caricature of a villain. It's brilliant stuff. And Kell Brook admits that he's desperate to get his hands on Amir Khan. And Khan even mocks him a little bit about, "You watch I'm a Celebrity, don't you? You saw me on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. You love it, didn't you?" And Kell Brook admitted that he does watch it and that he enjoyed watching Khan squirm when the snakes were out. And Khan was laughing and loving it and reveling in the fact that he is the star name. He is the one that has achieved more in terms of sheer objective titles and things like that. It's always been Khan that's been a step ahead of Kell Brook. From the days of their teenage years where they were both national champions, but Amir Khan, even at 17 years old, was the one to go to the Olympics and win an Olympic silver medal. When people started to say, actually, I think Kell Brook can win this fight, and people started to lean towards Brook, too big, too strong, his timing will beat the speed, he will get the better of Amir Khan. Amir Khan would dangle the carrot in front of him. Yeah, we're going to fight. Then he'd pull away. And he'd blame Brook for ducking him, right? And here he is in all his joy, mocking Kell Brook. And when Kell Brook, who finally managed to get a word of praise from Amir Khan after all these years, he was desperate to receive that level of respect, as he calls it, from Amir Khan. It was almost reminiscent of a father figure and a son, wasn't it? When Amir Khan's asked, "Do you not respect him? Do you not respect his achievements?" Amir Khan's hands initially just open up as if to say, "Yeah, of course I am. You know, look, there you go. I've got nothing to hide. It's true. Of course I respect you, Kell. You've been to America. You've won a world title. You fought in America. Well done. Congratulations." Tongue in cheek. Kell looking like he's going to burst out crying. Amir Khan is just mocking him because he knows that, yes, while those are very impressive achievements, they're nothing compared to what I've achieved, Kell. You're inferior to me. This is the message that Amir Khan was sending to Kell Brook. And you could also see in the build-up, in the face-off, look at Amir Khan here, how dismissive he is of Kell Brook. This was prior to the weigh-in face-off, right? This was at the press conference. I want you to have another little look at that. Look at the way Amir Khan is not even making eye contact with Kell. He's cracking jokes with people on the side, right? Now go back and look at Kell Brook. Let's look at Kell Brook again. Watch him. He's ready for the face-off. He wants to get in Amir Khan's face. Amir Khan's dismissive. This guy's not on my level. This is the way you react when there's a little kid that wants to play fight and you're in the middle of a busy adult conversation. 1 minute, my little brother. You're all right. We'll play fight in a sec. Let me just finish my conversation over here. I've got more important things to do. You're not a threat to me, essentially, is what Amir Khan is telling Kell Brook here. Now, Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, would have been very pleased with this outcome. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. That's the first part. We'll get to the second part in a moment. But what Sun Tzu is saying here is, if your opponent is prone to outbursts of anger, to the loss of control, your job is to irritate him. And what did we speak about in the preview? We spoke in the preview that for Kell Brook to be at his absolute best here, he needs to lure Khan in. Let Khan make those leaps in as you employ that fantastic distance control of yours, and as he leaps in, take a little half a step back and land your power punches, land your counter attacks. That's the best way that you're going to deal with Amir Khan, because the foot speed isn't what it used to be, and he's going to fall over himself. He's going to be throwing his hands from positions where he shouldn't be throwing them. He's going to be launching himself in just like he did against Terence Crawford, and indeed that is what happened. But if you irritate Kell Brook, he's going to come chasing you. Kell relies on timing. So timing requires you to have a clear head. It requires you to be calm. What it doesn't require is for you to be tense and looking to take somebody's head off and overloading on shots. In other words, the very aggressive nature of the arrogance of Khan was designed to mess up the timing of Kell Brook. That's what it was for. That's what the trolling was about. Let me get under this guy's skin so that he can move away from what he's supposed to do, because he wants to get in there and absolutely destroy me. So this was strategy. However, Sun Tzu also goes on to say, pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. Now, this is not what Amir Khan did, and you can't blame him. When Andy Ruiz was acting buddy-buddy and almost like a little goofy nerd, a little fanboy of Anthony Joshua, well, yeah, that worked, because AJ may have thought, this guy's not a threat, I'm just going to walk through him. But there was no chance that Kell Brook was going to undermine Amir Khan. In fact, if I was Amir Khan, I would have done something a little bit different to what he actually did. When Kell Brook challenged Amir Khan on multiple occasions to say, why has this fight taken so long to be made? What's the problem? Why did you wait? Why is it happening now? Amir Khan initially came out and said, well, it's because we were with different promoters and so on and so forth. And Kell said, what are you talking about? There was a time when we were with the same promoter. And at that point, Amir Khan was lost for words. I would have played that differently. I would have let him think that I was weak, but that I now know he's weakened. In other words, I would have said, well, what are you trying to say, Kell? What, you think that I was afraid of you? Why do you think I've let the fight happen now? You're telling me there's nowhere else to go. You keep saying this. I just fought Billy Dib in Saudi Arabia for $5 million. If my aim was to make money, I'm still a star over there. I could go and fight any old bum, a smaller fighter, a YouTuber, and make millions and millions of pounds. So why do you think I need to fight you? I don't need to fight you. The timing's right to fight you and to beat you and to knock you out. Because if you think I was afraid of fighting you in the past because I thought you were too good, why am I suddenly willing to fight you? Is it because I'm going to smash you to pieces? Because the whole world's seen that you're not the Kell Brook you used to be? Now I'm starting to place doubts in his own mind about who he is. You see, this is a point I've made in the past about Billy Joe Saunders and Gennady Golovkin. There was a time when Chris Eubank Jr. was saying he could destroy Gennady Golovkin, and Billy Joe Saunders came out and said to Chris Eubank, you're deluded. He'd beat us both on the same night. But then there came a point in Billy Joe's career, way before he fought Canelo Alvarez, when he was still taking things seriously, about the time when he was putting on that schooling against David Lemieux, where he came out and he said Golovkin has aged and that he would now beat Golovkin. He's ready now. He's better than he's ever been. Well, if you're Gennady Golovkin, you may not think that Billy's right, obviously. You might think, you know what, this guy doesn't know what he's let himself in for. But there's one guarantee, and that is that Billy Joe Saunders now believes. Because in the past, when he wasn't willing to fight you, he didn't believe he could beat you. And he would be open about that. Whereas now that he's willing to fight you and chasing the fight, well, that means he's seen a decline in you, or he's seen an improvement in himself. So now you can no longer think this guy doesn't truly believe he can win. You know he believes he can win and he's coming to win. So if it was me, my focus would have been to try and get Kell Brook questioning himself too, rather than just making it obvious that I'm dismissive of him. I want him to start questioning himself. But the trolling that Amir Khan did was brilliant, and there was a method to the madness. He attempted to make Kell Brook look as though he was lesser than him.
Khan also made an issue of the Papadom Chin comment.
Coldwell, who is Asian, came out and defended Kell Brook and said that's not a racist term. It's got nothing to do with Amir Khan being Indian. We use it, he said. We use it in this part of the world, basically. It suggests that Papadoms are even more fragile than glass. So it's worse than having a glass chin. You barely touch one and it breaks. And that's what Kell Brook meant. Now, I don't believe that Amir Khan felt that Kell Brook was actually being racist. But the aim is to put emotional pressure on Kell Brook. To have the journalist ask him, Kell, are you racist? Kell, how do you feel about these prejudiced claims you've made? And Kell Brook actually was asked this, and he came out and he said, well, look at my skin color. I'm not racist. What are you talking about? And he was trying to be instantly dismissive of it. That adds pressure because it adds stress. So he's trying to anger Kell again. How dare this guy accuse me of this when he knows I'm not racist? Right? It's all a strategy. And perhaps this was the reason for Amir Khan's incessant trolling of rumours that have surrounded Kell Brook for many, many years regarding his lifestyle. When Kell Brook said we used to share a room together back in the day when we were amateurs, obviously talking about travelling with Team GB and the England national team, Amir Khan pulls a little face there, as you can see. He gives a little wink to somebody in the front row, tongue in cheek. Nah, Kell, I didn't share a room with you, especially not after what I heard about you. Don't try it. We've never shared a room together. Kell says, what do you mean? What have you heard about me? And Khan says, I'm not going to go into that now. And Kell Brook bites up. He gets angry. So everything is designed to really get under the skin of Kell Brook. That is what Amir Khan is all about. But he maintains that level of confidence, this air of contemptuous superiority. He's looking down on Brook. He sees him with contempt. You're nothing compared to me. But there is another man in Team Brook. Dominic Ingle actually put on a bit of a psychological masterclass, with the exception of one thing. When he drank Kell Brook's sweat, which was not only disgusting to behold, it was a bizarre thing to do. But when he did that, what he did was bring attention away from some of the clever things he was doing, and people were focusing on that. And it gave Team Khan a free point. Amir Khan, to further irritate Kell Brook, was able to question what other bodily fluids of Kell Brook's Dominic Ingle is willing to drink, right? But that aside, what Dominic Ingle did, I thought, was fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about Team Brook's psychological warfare. You see, Bomac is, of course, the trainer of Terence Crawford, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And, of course, he has beaten both Amir Khan and Kell Brook. So Bomac is a persona. He's a trainer of one of the world's great warriors. This is how it's seen. This is the persona that is spread to the public. Brian McIntyre, though, which is his real name, he's not that persona, is he? He's not that superstar. So what did Dominic Ingle do? He would repeatedly refer to him as Brian. He was undermining Bomac. Amir Khan kept referring to, yeah, I've moved to Nebraska to work with Team Bomac and Team Crawford. Why does he keep bringing up Team Crawford? Because Crawford is one of the pound-for-pound superstars in the world that beat Kell Brook. Bomac himself made reference to the fact, yeah, I chose to work with Amir Khan because, you know, he could last a few rounds, whereas Kell Brook couldn't last 4 rounds. You understand? It's the idea that we know how to beat you, and I'm about to pass on that knowledge. So what Dominic Ingle is doing is undermining that. He's trying to say these guys don't know anything about any secrets of beating you. This guy's not Bomac, some character. He's Brian. And who is Brian? What's he going to teach him how to do? Get knocked out? Now, what was that in reference to? That reference was about Brian McIntyre's professional boxing record. 7 wins and 14 losses. 9 of those losses were knockouts. This is the man who you've decided suddenly has the chalice of truth when it comes to conquering the boxing world. Relax, Kell. This guy ain't anything. He's nothing. It's just Brian. Ingle also accuses Bomac of not even knowing who Kell Brook is. He said the only time he's seen him fight is probably when he fought against Crawford. Bear in mind, when Kell fought Crawford, he was not with Dominic Ingle. So he's saying to him, this is a different Kell Brook. You don't know him. So what is he telling Amir Khan here? He's telling him, number one, the dude that you've hired is not some superstar. He was a terrible fighter. This is what Ingle's implying. He was a terrible fighter that used to get knocked out a lot. So he didn't know how to protect himself from getting knocked out. He doesn't know the opponent that you're supposed to be fighting. So how's he going to come up with a strategy to beat him? And he's just Brian. This ain't no Bomac. This ain't no larger-than-life character. It's just a dude. You're in trouble, Amir. And you know how else you might be in trouble, Amir? Kell Brook gave an interview, and people gave a lot of criticism to both Kell Brook and Johnny Nelson about this, whereby he said, I might not even bother to make the weight. I might be willing to pay a few $100,000, come in heavy, and we'll see. Now, this is obviously significant because for Amir Khan to have wanted to put this in the contract, 149, and you said you could make 147, so I've given you an extra couple of pounds. Why should I fight you at 154? If he wasn't concerned about the weight, he would have fought at 154. He was concerned about a big, heavy, strong Kell Brook. So when Kell Brook is telling him, guess what? I'm coming in heavy anyway, mate. I'm willing to pay that fine. Think about the seeds of doubt that places, the seeds of fear. Amir Khan suddenly is thinking, hold on a sec, we had a contract. He's reneging on the contract. But I can't scream and shout too much about that because then it's going to look like I'm actually scared to fight Kell Brook when he's at 100% and he's 100% healthy. So now what am I going to do? You understand how this psychological masterclass from Ingle and Brook was very subtle, but placing seeds of doubt in the mind of Amir Khan and undermining this superstar team that he moved to Nebraska for? Interesting stuff, right? Well, the fight came to an end and we know what happened. Amir Khan looked like a sad, broken man. And I hope, like I said, he gets the respect he deserves. But he played this very, very well. Even up to the point of questioning the gloves, forcing him to change the gloves in the last minute in the ring. Talk about disruption. There was even rumors that there were people knocking on the hotel room door of Kell Brook in the early hours of the morning. Now, a number of years ago, Greece were playing away in Turkey in a football match. And the Greek national team had accused the Turkish Federation or organized fan groups or whatever it was of setting off fire alarms in the hotel that they were staying in on 2 or 3 occasions the night before to disrupt their sleep. You don't really hear about it in boxing, do you? These are mind games to get every little advantage you can get. Now, I'm not saying Amir Khan was behind that, but it's very possible that it was a fan of Khan's that was behind it, right? They played a great one, did Team Khan. But so had Team Brook, because I had never seen a fighter look as terrified as Amir Khan looked when he was walking from the changing room through the car park about to enter the arena. I have seen Mike Tyson opponents early in his career when he was still fighting novices on his way up, where he had this terrible reputation. They looked scared, right? Even they didn't look as scared as Amir Khan looked. He looked petrified. Then when the ring walk came, he ran to the ring. He ran as though he wanted to get it over and done with. Not because he wanted to get his execution over and done with or anything like that, but his legs were probably turning to jelly. He was shaking off his legs. He was feeling the nerves. The adrenaline was pumping. And Kell Brook was stiff and overloading a little bit in those first couple of rounds. So what Khan's team did also worked, psychologically speaking. So I thought the warfare, the psychological warfare on display here was fantastic. And listen, with regards to Khan looking terrified, I don't want people to assume that this is just me over-analysing things, because although I tweeted it live during the night, I've since had messages from other people like Writing Yogi, who messaged to say she knew as soon as Khan ran through the ring walk, looking anxious and tense, that Brook was the one that got into Khan's head. So for me, this was a high-level psychological stuff from both teams. Khan's was more overt, more extrovert. Brook's was more subtle, particularly Ingles, I thought was very clever. And the threat to come in at a higher weight would have put some stress on Amir Khan. I thought it was brilliant, brilliant stuff. And it was nice in the end to see these two men embrace and put it all to bed. No doubt the smiles from Team Khan are hiding some real emotional pain. But hopefully these guys can get over it and we can celebrate the wonderful careers that they've both had. Let me know what you think about the psychological aspects of this war. Who do you think got the better of it? Do you think they both played a good one? Do you think one played it well, the other one didn't and just got lucky, or perhaps got exposed? Whatever you think happened, let me know your thoughts on everything. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care and God bless.